maybe I'll just stay where I'm at because I don't know what the heck's going to happen. You know, even though whatever service it is, I may not love it and I may not feel like I'm getting the best value out of it, but I'm afraid to change anything.
Do they have to have a certain reliability and know that, like, hey, if I'm working with these guys, that, you know, my business is going to be reflected in the best way and I don't have to worry about it. I just know I got taken care of because I got 50 other problems and I really hope that my uniforms aren't one of them, right?
We're far more responsive and ability to customize programs, answer the phone, go speak to our customers, get answers to questions in a very short amount of time. I mean, you know, we're nimble. That's just we're driving a smaller boat. It's not a big publicly traded company like most of our competitors.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the NextGen Strategies podcast. Joining me, as always, Mr. Tyler Davis, and we are here in Upper Sandusky at Kimmel Corporation with Brian and Greg Kimmel. Guys, welcome to the show.
Welcome to Upper Sandusky.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks for making the trip.
Yeah, absolutely. We're very excited today. Kimmel has quite a rich history, and I think there's a lot of things that we're going to cover today, just in terms of family business and legacy and competing against the big guys. And so, again, really appreciate you guys being on today, and I think we're going to just hop on in. So
Great.
I'll let either one of you kind of take this. So let's first do a little bit of introductions. So I'll start with you, Greg. Like, kind of, what are you doing here at Kimmel?
Yeah, sure. Greg Kimmel. Happy to be here. Been here for the last 13 or so years, and grew up in the business. Brian and I's father was one of the owners in the third generation.
Okay.
And went off to college. Traveled for work for a few different places, rounding out maybe the skill set that I could develop to bring back to the company, always with intentions of being back here.
Sure.
And excited to come back and with Brian be a part of the fourth generation in the business, and working hard for our people and our customers. So,
Awesome. And your current role is?
So I'm the CEO.
Okay.
And have oversight. I grew up in the service side of this business.
Sure.
Before coming into the family business, I kind of worked in operations and supply chain, and then a little bit of sales, and then went into service when I came back into the business, and kind of grew up on that side of things, and work in operations and supply a little bit today. So
Yeah. Brian, how about you?
Yeah, Brian Kimmel, similar to Greg, graduated here from Upper Sandusky, and then went out to college, went to University of Toledo, and got I got a major actually in sales, and that's something that was fairly uncommon at the time, and I kind of fell into it, and then it kind of paved the path for what I ended up doing to this point a little bit more. So. After school, worked for an organization doing outside sales in South Carolina. And then at the time I felt ready to transition home, I said, Dad, what do you think? I mean, he said, well, that's up to you. But if you come back, guess what? You're not going anywhere. So make sure you know what you're doing here.
Right.
And to this point, it's been a great experience. I have been mostly involved in the sales portion of the organization. So I'm the president of the company, and as Greg and I's roles continue to evolve with those different responsibilities, we still have kind of our strong areas where, the service and the sales side, and work together on that a lot. So
I always ask this for these multi-generational business owners, especially even for me as a first-generation business owner with sons, what that dynamic's like. I see a lot of the graduate, work somewhere else and kind of come back into the business. I see sometimes they started working for the business when they were 12 years old and never left. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on what that looked like for you, what that might look like for future generations past you, what you think is a kind of a winning way of doing that, if there is interest clearly from the children to join.
Yeah, I mean, I personally feel like I'm I'm glad he kind of forced us not to come right into the business. Not to say that's what I would have done, but I knew I didn't really have an option. We had to go out. We had to learn other skills before we came back. And for my children, and for Greg and Abby's children, I would advocate for the same. We spent many summers sorting dirty linen. I mean, we were on trucks helping with holiday routes, help fill in for vacation. So we know our way around the plant before we even came back to the organization, as we spent a lot of time around it. At the same time, you need to get that out of your system and make sure that is what you want to do, because you're making a commitment, not just to, at that time, I mean, it's our uncle and our father, to come back to the organization. But I mean, you're making a commitment to the future of the company and the employees within the organization. So yeah, I'm of that opinion very much, to, learn as much as you can until you're ready. Other people have done it differently, and they're successful too, though.
Sure. And on that side, like, you mentioned kind of your uncle and your dad and those different generations. So like, tell me a little bit, like, from that Kimmel history, and like where you started, and like where you're at today, and what are some of the things that you're doing, or maybe stopped doing along the way as well.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I can field that question. Historically, we're a dry cleaning operation. Dry cleaning in the 1930s, 1940s, 1950s, and in that era was very popular. Every small community had a dry cleaning entity, or a dry cleaner and a launderer. And polyester wasn't as popular. Polyester didn't exist back then. Home washers, dryers, those things weren't. They just didn't exist. So things have evolved quite a bit since then, but in the early days, we were a dry cleaner and a wholesale cleaner. So we grew the company, or the company grew generationally in that industry, and then got into doing uniform mat linen rental probably midway through the company's history, and also did some point laundry business. And evolved today to, through those years being, as of today, primarily a uniform mat linen company. And then we have an apparel division where we sell custom apparel, mostly embroidered, like Brian and I are wearing here today, to businesses, B2B sales, but also have a storefront where we've got some walk-in traffic, mostly local spirit wares, supporting the local high schools and things like that, but also, place to pick up apparel. So that's the complexity or the complexion of the business today. But I mean, I'm very thankful that we went through the things that we went through with an industry that isn't as popular today, but we diversified, and now 95 years in, we're doing really well and excited for the future.
Awesome. And so you're telling me, like, these golf polos, like, they not getting dry cleaned, and
not getting dry cleaned. No, those
not rocking
those are
home
home
wash
wash polyester polo shirts. Back in the day, I guess when everybody's wearing suits and ties and wools and natural fiber clothing, that needed to be professionally cleaned, and some of that still does. It's just not as popular, especially in Northwest Ohio. Cincinnati, Cleveland, Columbus. That's still a good industry. So
And now they sell machine washable suits.
yeah,
Blazers. So hey, that's what everybody's doing,
Wow. That's great. So like, I'm curious, like, as part of, kind of having two different, service lines, you mentioned, like, obviously the apparel store, and like, you could do the embroidery or other things of that nature, but then you've also got, the other B2B side. So like, how has, like, as you guys have grown the business, and like, your footprint expands, like, you have different types of customers, different industries, like, what have been some of the maybe challenges or hurdles that you guys have had to overcome to make sure, like, you're consistently, like, providing what you need to provide for your customers, and growing that way? Like, what's been some of the things you've had to work through over the last couple of years?
I think the biggest thing is the nostalgia that we were a dry cleaner. So our company name was Kimmel Cleaners for many years, for a good reason. And through the prior 3 generations, that's primarily what we did. And in the last, the generation prior to us with my uncle and my father, they did, grow some of that industrial end. And, we're grateful that they did, because when we came into the company, and that was one of the first things I was tasked with, was we got to grow this. They both saw the future of dry cleaning and knew that, it's pretty risky. So fortunately we were able to grow, and we were able to really establish ourselves, not just in the immediate footprint, but we cover 45% of the state now. And we're not a dry cleaner outside of a 60-mile radius. People don't know us of that, but within that we do. So we've rebranded to Kimmel Corporation, and really just to make sure people understand that we're more of a full service commercial rental company, able to fulfill all their needs. So we have competitors out there that actually sell quite a suite of goods. And many times that helps us, because we come in, if we're fortunate enough to earn that business, we can support majority of what all that is. And they, some people think, well, they may not be big enough. But once they speak with us or talk to some of our customers, and they realize that, we can not only support them in that way, but we can bring a lot more value typically in some of those situations.
And so, like you mentioned, the competitor side, and I am curious because, like, I feel like this would be a pretty highly competitive industry. So, like, how do you whether you all are out talking to customers or potential customers, or it's your folks that are also, obviously boots on the ground, like, what are some of those things that you're like, listen, like, this is how we're different, or like, this is how, we may not always win here, but we're gonna plant our flag and we're gonna win here every single time. Like, what are some of those things that you're working on to stay competitive?
Yeah, sure. And naturally Brian's out of the office more often than I, so he's maybe fielding or directing prospective customers more in that way than I am. But I'll say, our industry is a bit unique. There's other industries like this, of course, that are maybe hidden from the public, if you will. Not many of the public knows that when they go into an industrial customer that's maybe a manufacturing goods, or a restaurant or a country club, that those businesses don't have washers and dryers, and they don't own the uniforms that are being worn by the wait staff at a restaurant, or the shirts and pants being worn at a manufacturing company. So from that perspective, it's a bit of a hidden industry, if you will. But those that are buyers understand the industry. They are not always clear on how we're different. So that is a challenge.
Sure.
And I say that because our primary competitors are the national brands. Cintas, UniFirst, Vestas are the biggest players. And, as a local independent that approaches the market differently, we treat our customers differently. We're far more responsive, and have an ability to customize programs, answer the phone, go speak to our customers, get answers to questions in a very short amount of time. I mean, we're nimble. That's just we're driving a smaller boat. It's not a big publicly traded company like most of our competitors. So that is what we task ourselves with, is going to market and making sure that the market is aware of how we're different. We believe we're pretty good at it. And so I'll let maybe Brian expand on that, because he's out in the field more than me.
Sure.
But
Yeah, I mean, everything Greg said is right on cue with what we promote when we're out there, and it's really understanding as a buyer or the owner of a company, HR manager, maintenance manager. There's a variety of people that we work with, and it's what is important to you. And if it's we're talking to someone that's a uniform rental company, if it's just shirts and pants and can I find the cheapest thing out there, we may not be a good fit. But if you look at a long-term relationship and you're annualized cost and your spend and the amount of micromanagement that you want to have in that program, then we're going to have a really good conversation, because we can build a program around those needs if you feel that they're valuable. And it's something where, especially in industries that need to have uniforms, if you don't bring back a uniform that's turned in the next week after it's laundered, that person is shorted a garment. So there's a day they're going to go without a shirt or pant. Well, they have a choice to make. Do I launder it at home? Do I steal someone else's right next to me? I mean,
Right.
this guy wears a 32, 34. I'm going to slip that bad boy right on, and he's not even going to know it. I mean, these are real things that happen, which interrupt the operation of a company. Not only that, it can hurt the culture of the organization if that's a benefit that they're providing for their employees. So when you're in a heavy soil environment, or from a safety standard standpoint,
Yeah.
I mean, flame retardant garments, high visibility, enhanced visibility striped garments, they need to be wearing that stuff to meet the standards of that facility. And if they don't have them on, they could get in trouble. Or, I mean, the idea is you want to make sure everybody's safe.
Right.
So that's really a lot of the environments where we thrive, because some of the larger companies, it's a little harder for them to do that. They're going to have more mistakes. And we have a K-Trax RFID garment tracking process where everything that comes into our facility is more or less checked in. So through these microchips, that it's the data hits the plant, and then it goes through the wash dry process, and at the end it has to be checked out. So if the Tyler, you give me 5 shirts and 4 pants, 2 days later when they're ready to go and set up and cleaned and dried, they better be 5 shirts and 4 pants. And if not, the system will tell us, hey, you're short a garment, you need to find that garment. So we can guarantee that you're going to get those garments back. We still have humans working. I'm not saying we're perfect.
Sure.
I mean, reality of the situation is, things happen, but how quick can you react to that and make sure that's taken care of, and make sure it doesn't happen again is the goal.
Well, what I'm hearing, and this is kind of industry agnostic, and for the listeners too, is that the space for when you're competing in a space as an independent company amongst big players, the place that you win is in your customer experience. It's in your flexibility, your adaptability. And even as the finance person, like, I'm always the person looking at price. There's price, and then there's real price. And that's the thing I'm always on the lookout for is, you get this advertised, monthly cost or whatever it is, right? But like, what is the sunk cost behind that? Like you referenced, it's time spent on the phone trying to get a hold of people. It's some sort of lost efficiency with staff because of either they're an admin trying to figure stuff out, or it's the people out on the floor who don't have a garment, or something's a mess. Like that, all that stuff adds up, and it isn't all apparent on the front end. And it reminds me, and this is kind of a dumb joke, but it reminds me, if you watch The Office, there's a scene in The Office where they're trying to compete with another paper company, a big, large paper company, and they're sitting with the CEO of this buyer, and they're like, okay, call him if you need paper right now. And it goes to a hold, and they're sitting there.
Six things of a phone tree. And
yep. And then they call Dunder Mifflin, and it's like, hi, this is Pam. How can I help you? Yeah. Immediately pick up. And like, that's the type of difference that we're seeing, and it's winning in terms of the competition against some of these bigger players across lots of industries.
Yeah. Well, and I do think, and code adjusted some of this, where, human interaction and communication may be a little less, and technology has a big part of that too, right? But it can be really refreshing when you go somewhere and the customer service is at a level that I almost didn't expect it to be that good. Well, why are we lowering our expectations to where maybe they were previously? I'm not real sure. You go to a restaurant, whatever the case is.
Sure.
But when we walk out and we have great customer service, we are going to A, go back, but B, recommend whatever that service was to as many people as we can, because we're kind of almost like blown away by it. So that's the world we live in. We're in customer service. We don't make shirts and pants. I mean, a shirt is a shirt, a pant is a pant. And so we're selling who we are and what we do, and the value behind that over time, you don't have to worry about it. And I know we're talking about broad overview, but you have been in the business, so you've seen some of the details. And, the hidden fees, this, that, and the other, and you just pay it whatever the case is. Well, that was written into your agreement that they could do that. They're not doing anything that is per se wrong, but how is that written in a way where it could have been perceived differently?
Yeah.
So that's where we come in a little more like refreshing way of doing business is let's be upfront, let's be transparent, and let's do what we can do to help you guys, not just in the next year, but in the next 5 to 10 to 20 years.
And you mentioned something, and I'm sorry, I'm going to bring this up. You said a magic word, which was COVID, and I'm curious. Obviously, in your profession, what maybe those years look like, where you guys might have had to pivot or like do things a lot differently. I'm sure it was quite an interesting time in your business, and honestly, probably less about you guys, more about like how the heck do we support our customers who are like,
We just bulldogged our way right through it.
what the heck are we doing right now?
Those were stressful days. I can't imagine any business owner wants to go back to the days of COVID. It was, undoubtedly, some of the most challenging stuff that we've been faced with over the last handful of years, and the fallout after that with hiring and having good people. And
Sure.
all of that was a challenge. There were, basically every day, every work day was loaded with a fair amount of stress as to how we were going to get through the day, the week, the month, and navigate what was being thrown at us by local government, state government, federal government. At the end of the day, we had customers, to Brian's point earlier, regarding, some of our apparel needs to be delivered to our customers for our customers to do their job safely.
We're a central business during that time.
Yeah.
And we also, historically, we did a fair amount more of healthcare work than we do now, but we still do a fair amount of healthcare work.
Sure.
So it was essential that we provide service to our customers. So thereby, we needed our employees to be present. And of course, we were battling all of the things that COVID brought with health and stamina of our people and those things. But it was looking back now, I wouldn't want to do it again, but it was a prideful time. We got through it. Our service reps out on the road were incredible. Our customers, I think, were gracious with, we didn't really have any service failures regarding, we didn't have to skip days. We never ran short on customer service reps to be able to go out and provide service to our customers. It was a really prideful time, but incredible amount of stress. I'm sure other folks that you've done interviews with, would say the same thing, but that's where we shine. This isn't a commoditized market. This is we are in the service industry, and Tyler, you and Brian both already talked about that. But the customer that works for us is the customer that understands the value that we bring, and if given the opportunity, we can show that. And usually that's understood and appreciated, but it's not a commoditized market. It's not like the internet, where as long as the internet's working, everybody's happy,
Right.
And you just want to call every few months and or every 12 months and have your bill reduced. Like that's not this industry. And we are a service provider and take pride in that.
Even thinking back about how crazy COVID was, like at the point in the beginning of it, like we didn't even know how it was spread. So I can imagine the launder kind of industry was like, it was like, I don't want to take my clothes home.
Yeah.
Like that.
You can't even touch a surface. You had this.
Right.
Yeah, but we had 0 layoffs.
Yeah.
We kept everybody employed.
Yeah.
Our what we look at from an operational perspective is the amount of pounds that we wash that run through our facility.
Okay.
And our poundage went down significantly, which means our FTEs would have gone down significantly. But we had people painting. We recently had acquired a property, so we decided we'd shift people over to that property that had maybe no experience with renovation, and we were having them renovate property because we didn't want to lay anybody off. And of course, there were some incentives, to do that, but that wasn't even really the reason why. It was because it was the right thing to do.
Right.
Everybody was dealing with the difficulty. So that's it's like a nightmare. Why'd you bring that up?
I mean,
Bringing back.
he brought it up. I didn't bring it up. No, there may or may not have been a question here getting ready for that. That's but
It'll
that's
always be a story though, because
Yeah.
like it was a
is.
nightmare, but it was also like one of those things where in a lot of businesses it was this, I don't know if we're going to be open, and then 3 months later it's the highest sales you've ever had.
Yeah.
Like the way that boom turned back over on for some industries, like
Yeah.
what a turbulent time compared to like, I think the most previous thing everyone wants to talk about is, the housing crisis in 08, 09, that time frame. Well, that was a big, long, tough bear, right? Whereas COVID was just this craziness that was so short, and the grand concept of your stomach flipping over,
Well, and I think too, it just changed how people did business. From the customer standpoint, provider standpoint. It doesn't matter your industry. So, I mean, keeping great employees, and then how from an HR standpoint, incentivizing people with something that makes sense to them, because we value them more than anything, because without the employees at your organization, you cannot, in our industry, get product wash and get it back to your customers. Okay. So that is by far number one. But then you look at the other end of the spectrum where, how do I make this decision? I had so much uncertainty, X amount of years ago, that maybe I'll just stay where I'm at because I don't know what the heck's going to happen. Even though whatever service it is, I may not love it and I may not feel like I'm getting the best value out of it, but I'm afraid to change anything. So back to your other questions, the challenges of growing is change.
Yep.
People are a little more reluctant to make changes. And it's our job to help them, see the value and feel comfortable with that change. And that's all about relationships. It's what we're doing today.
Yeah.
It's really just talking with people, human interaction that really helps that out.
Yeah, and it feels like, as you've talked a little bit about what you guys are doing. Obviously, like linens, uniforms, like that's the tangible, the piece of it. But like you're talking about, like, listen, what we're doing has safety impacts. There's regulations and reasons why people have to wear potentially uniforms. Your businesses that you're working with, and again, I'll put the marketing hat on, like their uniforms are a reflection of their brand out to the public, right? Or, if there's mats and stuff that are dirty and you've got your customers are coming in, they have to have a certain reliability and know that, like, hey, if I'm working with these guys, that, my business is going to be reflected in the best way and I don't have to worry about it. I just know I got taken care of because I got 50 other problems, and I really hope that my uniforms aren't one of them, right? So like, I think that to your point, like that's a big deal. It's just focusing on, you've got the product, but like it's the rest of the things that go into that, and obviously being also that proposition.
Was that a Jay-Z song? What the problems in my uniform part one? Is that right?
99 problems a uniform.
Problems in my uniforms aren't one.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
There's your marketing. Right
There we go. Yeah, we'll do a commercial on that. Look at that. We'll do a commercial on that after.
You said something really compelling though too, is that from an FTE standpoint, you shifted work around, and I've heard that story from a lot of multi-generational family businesses that do that. Like, there are businesses that do the layoff hire cycles over and over, and I think there's a really important factor behind putting that, essentially it's an investment back into these employees, even though the FTE really, or the revenue, wasn't there at the moment, because of that longevity and how much like the intangibles that are there with having the employees seeing that you're investing in them and keeping them along for the ride, as well as, not having that hiccup of turnover. Right after this COVID boom, we had the biggest employee market of all time, right? you could go find another job tomorrow that paid better or did more. And I think these types of things that happen with businesses and their employees are what kind of get those longevity type relationships,
Yeah. Some of that generational stuff is, we're thankful. Brian and I can be thankful that we've had preceding generations run the company, even though the complexion of the business was different 20 years ago than it is now, quite a bit so. I mean,
Yeah.
but that said, my uncle, Brad and I have an uncle that still works for the company, and he's been here over 30 years, and he and I just recently had a conversation regarding the layoffs over the recent years. And, my dad would say, as I would recall, that we haven't laid anybody off possibly ever, but nonetheless, my uncle and I were having this similar discussion. He's like, well, as long as I've been here, we've never laid anybody off. And but it's those things that ingrain in the identity of a company, how you deal with challenges like COVID or like turnover post-COVID, because like what you were just saying, Tyler, I mean, it was easy to get a job at a lot of different places. So, it kind of flipped the script on the, sometimes the employee would be more gracious maybe years ago to work for a company. And that flipped over my tenure here at Kimmel Corporation, where now
So we'll see.
it needs to be attractive for the employee to want to come to work, and I believe that we are attractive, but we fight for that every day. We modify things, we showcase that this is a great place to be, and Grant, like you were saying, I mean, the stuff that we're doing and the reason why we need to do it, and that we have protective apparel that's being sent out, and healthcare linen that needs to be delivered to hospitals. We're proud of it, and our production facility is not closed off to the public. We are downtown Upper Sandusky. We aren't in an industrial park that's difficult to find.
Some are way off the road.
No, I mean, really, we are downtown Upper Sandusky. A facade of our building, when we did an expansion 7 years ago, it's kind of a neat story. Like, if you look at the brick on the outside of our building, there's 3 different shades of brick. There's the second generation it's actually the first generation of brick. The second generation of this company has a different shade of brick. And then Brian and I, our father and uncle had, when we did an expansion about 8 years ago, a third shade of brick. So I don't know where, we're out of brick on the main street here in Upper Sandusky. As far as I don't know, where we're going to expand. We kind of know. We kind of know. But nonetheless, I mean, we are not a hidden operation, and anybody can walk through our front door and see our facility. We're proud of it. We're happy to show it off. And that's where we do the stuff. That's where we get everything clean. Get everything, there's specific chemistry to how we launder every specific item. Nonetheless, I mean, we're proud of it. So it's a cool industry. It's really neat.
Well, to Craig's point earlier, it's a sleepy industry. So people don't think about how are you laundering shirts and pants. It's washers and dryers, and some people think, oh yeah, when people are in there, just wash and dry it, put it on a hanger, and yeah, we are. Thousands and thousands and thousands of them. And the technology behind that, and the conveyors, we added on the buildings, about a 10,000 square foot building with, I believe, like 28-foot ceilings.
Yeah.
So these garments are literally all the way up at the top, going up and down through another floor, through a steam tunnel, coming back. And when we give tours, usually like in the first 5 minutes, people don't say much because they're like,
holy cow. Well, they're like, that's the biggest washer I've ever seen.
like, holy moly, how much water does that thing? Well, truthfully, per pound, it uses less than your home washer. So it's actually more efficient, more green as far as the environment goes. But yeah, when you look at the facade on the outside, it's just a big brick wall with windows in it, and you don't really know what's happening behind the scenes.
We're kind of curious. Did this market, like, how do I want to say this? At what point in time were uniforms not a thing, I guess, for
It's a great question.
the industry? And then, did you get, was this something that came out of demand from the employers, and then maybe your family saw it and jumped on it, or they really pushed it and expanded it? Because I don't remember, you go to some places there are uniforms, some places there aren't, it just depends.
Yeah, you're maybe asking a question to me where I don't have the experience what things were like in the 60s, 70s, 80s. But I think, I would guess the linen industry was the first
Right.
industry, washing bar towels and aprons for
Mhm.
restaurants, country clubs, things of that sort, from a commercial perspective, providing that service. And then uniforms probably tagged on after that in the 60s and 70s. And that would be my
Yeah.
my guess.
Do you see penetration? Like, do you see now where there might be a business that's like, I think we want to do uniforms? Because I can almost see it as like an employee. I'm not saying it's necessarily an employee benefit, but it is kind of nice especially if you're in something that's kind of dirty, that you can just drop off with. You're not bringing this to home, all of that. So, do you see new entry into the market?
Yeah, we do have new entry into the market, and to your point, it is 100% an employee benefit if the employer is helping pay for part of that.
True.
Which is typical.
Yeah, it's not very common the employee themselves pay for all of their uniforms, and it's part of a benefit package, and it's the cheapest benefit you can find out there. If you compare this to everything else insurance wise, and you name it.
I just remember my mom complaining about my dad's clothes because he's a machinist, so coolant and oil and all this stuff, and it's like ruining her washers all the time. And I'm like, uniforms are doing pretty nice, like, because they're not bringing that into your house.
Yeah, and there's a few factors. I mean, sometimes it's required
Yeah.
due to safety. Sometimes it's a benefit as it relates to what you were just referencing there regarding the cleanliness of taking a machinist's uniform, shirts and pants home to wash. And then other times it's image.
Yeah.
Image is important. And
You see that with like Honda, and I was at like NK, not NKV, but the one over on over towards
KTH.
yeah, KTH, where they're like we all had the same. Yeah.
Well, and I think you mentioned it. One of you two mentioned it earlier. Like, once you leave work, where are you going? Well, you're doing everything that maybe your family does. So you're going to the ball game. You're going to the grocery store. You're visiting various places throughout the week wearing that garment, and that's advertising for that organization.
Yeah.
So that organization is getting a benefit out of that every time. As long as maybe if you're not in the right establishment, maybe it's not the best for the organization. So don't stay out till 2 a.m. in the wrong place, right? But at the end of the day, it is something that, and I personally feel that employees are more proud of where they're at than they used to. And I've seen that from the rental side, but also from the apparel side.
Yeah.
People like the swag. Like,
They do.
People are more willing to be like, I work at this organization, and we build customized websites where employees can get on there and order stuff that has their company name on it.
Yep.
Who would have ever thought that, 20 years ago that I'm going to pay out of my pocket to put the name of my employer on it?
Yeah.
It happens.
Our friends will take our apparel just to wear to work because they like that they think it's cool.
Yeah.
We have several people like that.
Yeah.
It's
This is a cool thing. Well, I'm curious. I've got a brother and he's got siblings. So, obviously you guys are brothers.
Mhm.
I'm sure everything is just peachy behind the scenes and there's never any disagreements and you guys just, work hand in hand.
So you usually settle in a wrestling match still?
Yeah, I mean, we walk out of work just holding hands every day.
But no, I am curious, just like, obviously in your roles leading the company, like how do you guys like kind of manage, who does what or like strengths and weaknesses or when there are, disagreements on things, like how do you guys usually work through that? Or do you have a referee? Like how does that work?
this has all been discussed over the years, we've gone into current leadership roles. But no, I mean, I think our parents established the right framework for us to have a strong relationship with each other, strong individual character. There's a mass amount of respect on each side. Our offices are right next to each other. Yeah, I mean, do we agree with everything every day? No, absolutely not. But it works. We do, in this industry, as many other industries, I mean, we work with outside consultants on a number of things. And then we're members of groups and we travel kind of the nation and we other peer laundries that we chat with. And all of this, we sometimes, Brian and I will do it independently of each other, sometimes together. We just got back from Portland, Oregon last month. We traveled out there together. And that's fun. You get to work with your brother, or a sibling, regardless, that happens to be, our situation where we're the only two, uh, no other siblings, but, no, I mean, it works. We enjoy it, get to work with family. That's what this business has been doing, for a long time. So
Yeah,
that's
we
good.
still got to see each other at Christmas, so it adds
Yeah.
that dynamic.
Well, it's one of those things you kind of know what you're signing up for,
Yeah.
but you kind of don't know what you're signing up for. And as you evolve in the organization, I mean, you went from having like bedrooms next to each other, and you get upset and you're throwing blocks at each other, whatever the case is. Now we have offices next to each other. Okay. Well, we throw far less blocks.
Yeah.
But to his point,
Far more fists.
sometimes you walk out and you're like, all right, we're gonna let this one fly. We'll talk tomorrow morning. But when you work with other organizations in these peer groups that are independent, rental companies, I think you do realize, first of all, I mean, a great point. We're a product for our environment. We had a great foundation, and through we had mentors along the way. Both my father and my uncle helped us in that role. And we have another uncle here. We have other people here at our organization that's helped us get to where we're at, and to understand that it's by far not about him and I. That is the least of it on the scale of importance. But it's what's the best for the organization, not just next week, not next year, but 5-10 years down the road.
Sure.
And what can we do to work together to really do that? And we've seen some organizations that have struggled with that. And I'm sure you guys in your profession have seen it, had those conversations, and you have to learn from that, and really pull out what you feel is important and say, we got to make sure we don't do that.
Yeah.
Because that could have an effect that could affect not just our relationship, but then others.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you have multiple generations of people who had to deal with the same thing as you, right? So like what I see a lot is the first generation business owners or family businesses not having any learned history of how to handle this. So do you have any level of advice for maybe a first generation, say it's a sibling team or something like that? Should they be using, a board or like trusted advisors to help be the kind of the referee, the tiebreaker, that help us figure out our lanes? What are you seeing that works really well? Because you could naturally just have a great relationship and it goes great, but we all know that's not necessarily.
Sometimes we'll bat.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I think scalability matters there. So if you're a first generation business with fewer employees, maybe navigate that differently than one with more employees. But peers are incredibly important, especially if it's peers that are industry specific. Your industry, let's say you're manufacturing widgets, and you want to find other manufacturers of widgets so you can talk with them. Maybe not in your market. Maybe a next state over in a different area of the United States, but reach out to them, see how they're navigating it, and maybe they are generational, so follow in the footsteps of them. Yes, a board would be possibly advisable, again, depending on scalability, but outside expertise is important. We've had consultants in and out of the business over the years. We work with consultants now, so yeah, I mean, all of that stuff, but it's difficult to navigate by yourself. Yeah. So most everything what I just said there is relying on other people or other people that have done it or other people that are experts in it. I suppose you could do it by yourself. Maybe if you live in Alaska and you're, there's not a lot around to bounce ideas off of. But no, I would say that lean on others.
Yeah, the peer group advice is huge. I just had a conversation this week with someone who's like, "Hey, I feel like our conversation. It feels we're talking numbers, but it feels like mentorship and guidance." She's like, "I feel like I'm on an island, as this business owner," and I'm like, "You need to find your niche's peer group."
Yeah, you need to celebrate the wins. Yeah. And you need to navigate the losses or the ups and the downs, however you want to look at that. But when you're going through things that maybe are more complex in nature or have some level of difficulty, or like the COVID situation, having other people to be able to navigate that with And I mean, you're not alone. We're not the only laundry in the United States of America doing what we're doing. So there's other people out there, and talking with things about them is valuable.
Yeah. Well, I think the successes and the failures have to be done essentially as a team. You're going to have both of them. We're very lucky. There's two of us. And to your point, you're on the island. If you're running an organization by yourself, you have to have those peers because it can get lonely. And nobody wants to climb to the top of the mountain and get there and not have anybody to celebrate it with. No, that almost defeats the purpose of the trials and tribulations it took to get there. So to have a team around you to help do that and get you to that point and celebrate with them is important.
Yeah. And I think, talking about the successes, I as we kind of wrap up here, I'm curious from both of your perspectives, like, what are the things that excite you about like where, things are going, or maybe what's next for the company, or maybe it's your customers, like, as you kind of look maybe in the next year, 2 years, like what makes you excited about like where things are going?
I mean, truthfully, I feel like we've built a team to continue the growth we've had. We've been lucky where we've had a decent amount of growth. I believe we've grown 150% in like 12 years. And, we have 10 routes. We're not a huge company, but we are very much a big enough company to handle anything that is out there and do it well. We want to grow at the right pace, and I believe that we build a team to help that growth. And they truly understand the fabric of who Kimmel is and believe in it. And our competitive market, I also believe, is going to help us where some of the larger companies, there's some mergers and acquisitions going on right now. And we don't know the final outcome of that. But when you have that happen, you're going to have and anybody can do their own research on this, it has to be done in the right way, but you're going to have the aftermath of that. It's going to end up affecting their employees, the end customer, you name it, the trickle-down effect that will happen. So that naturally is going to open more doors, and we need to be at the right place in the right time and be having the right conversations. So when those opportunities are there, that we can, provide value and educate those that are curious.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would say, my answer to that, I mean, building businesses are fun. Like, this is fun. Building business is fun, right?
Yeah.
Those that maybe went to business school, or you can be an engineer and get into the business field. There's a lot of people that start businesses, and you want to do it to win. You want to win the game. And, the recent past, some of the success that we've had more within the walls is generational transition, There's not a lot of fourth generation businesses out there. There's even fewer fifth gen, even fewer sixth gen. Some of that's just based on the tenure of the United States. But, naturally, businesses fail generationally. That's more common than success. So we navigated that successfully, very successfully. Like Brian was referencing, growth of the company has been great. And we want to win, that's why we're doing this. So, Brian and I are both competitive people, grew up in a competitive household.
Yep.
It's fun. So that's the vision and the future. That's what, gets us excited, I think.
Yeah, you cannot be the generation that lets it go.
No
way.
No pressure.
Yes. Yeah. And what is that? I think Jamie talked about it when we had it. Is it was it the third or the fourth that this typically is where that?
Yeah, I agree with what you said, but yeah.
I think from second to third is the biggest fall off, maybe failure rate or exit rate or whatnot. But I mean, it's fun.
Very cool. Well, guys, we definitely appreciate you having us up here today. Thank you for joining us. I think our listeners are certainly going to get quite a bit out of this podcast, just in terms of you guys sharing your perspectives, and love continuing to kind of beat that drum of the family-owned, still private corporations that are, maybe sometimes quietly like doing a lot more than what people even realize, which I love, I think you said earlier, the maybe sleepy industry, or the ones that people don't even think about. And you're like, yeah, like that's a big thing. So again, appreciate you guys being on here. And for all of our listeners today, like, subscribe, continue to follow us along, whether it's on YouTube or it's wherever you get your podcast. And we're looking forward to having a couple more episodes here this season as we start to wrap up season 2. Until next time.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Tyler. Thank you.
Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in to the NextGen Strategies podcast, where we share real stories and practical strategies to help you grow your business. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts, and don't forget to like and share it on social media.